Hello everybody, welcome to another Versus Video Deck Tech. CVM here along with
BBD.
the old Braun-Duin.
I forgot my name. It's hard to remember.
So this week we actually have something a little different for you guys. A lot of people have been asking that we play some Legacy action, so we are. And I have a sweet Natural Order Bant deck that I brewed up. There's a new Conspiracy card that I'm pretty excited to play, and I have just like a handful of decks that I want to try it in. And we haven't seen something like this in a while, so I figured let's give it a shot and see how it does. And that card is Council's Judgment. So the way this card works is it costs 3 mana. It's a sorcery. And when you cast it, starting with you name a non-land permanent you don't control.
Yep.
And then all your opponents name a non-land permanent you don't control. And whichever one either has the most votes or is tied for the most votes is just gone, exiled. Doesn't target, so you can hit True Name Nemesis, you can hit, Emrakul, you can hit Progenitus. And it's because there's only 2 people playing in a one-on-one match like in Legacy, you name a card, and then your opponent can either name a card, and then they lose that card, or if they mess up and name a different card, then they lose both.
Yeah, so worst case scenario, whichever card you name gets exiled.
Yep.
Best case scenario, your opponent messes up, says the wrong card, and you get to exile 2 things with it.
Exactly. But at the very worst, it's a 1-for-1. They can hit True Name Nemesis.
Yes.
So cards like Vindicate are fairly popular. This card, much like Vindicate, can be flashback with Snapcaster Mage. Even though we don't have it here in this deck kind of fell off the map because of True Name Nemesis, since it can just block Knight of the Reliquary all day, and it's just very difficult for you to get in damage when they have a 3-1 wall that you just really have no way to get rid of. But Council's Judgment, I keep wanting to call it Will of the Council, Council's Judgment gives you an answer to True Name Nemesis. Now the rest of the deck is just a pretty standard Bant shell, except we're not playing any Force of Will. So really the only blue cards that I wanted to play were Brainstorm to shuffle our Natural Order guys back into our deck. Same thing with Jace, plus he's just very powerful when you have accelerants like Noble Hierarch and Green Sun Zenith. And Vendilion Clique. And I also wanted to play Edric, who's been getting a lot of love lately.
Yeah.
It's a pretty sweet card. The format is kind of slowed down a little bit. Even the combo decks are usually waiting a turn or two to play around Daze and Spell Pierce because they're just being played so much right now. So cards like Edric can prey on the decks that are just, have a little bit of a slower game plan.
One of the nice things about Vendilion Clique, and like one of the reasons why you would play Clique in this deck over True Name, is if you get stuck with a Craterhoof or a Progenitus in your hand, you can target yourself with Vendilion Clique and put it on the bottom of your deck, and then Natural Order it. So.
Yeah, much like getting them back in your deck with Brainstorm or the Brainstorm off of Jace, Clique gives you another way to do that too. And then we just have Stoneforge Mystic, along with some equipment, Swords to Plowshares, and a little bit of a package for Green Sun Zenith, since we can get Edric, Knight of the Reliquary, Qasali Pride Mage, or Scavenging Ooze, and also Dryad Arbor. Now that we're on the lands, we do have another combo in the deck with Thespian Stage and Dark Depths. So since we're playing Knight of the Reliquary, we can get any land out of our deck at instant speed by tapping him and sacrificing one of our many forests or plains that we have. And so this will give us a way to just make a 20/20 and kill our opponent out of nowhere. We can also use Knight of the Reliquary to get something like Karakas to bounce and Emrakul, Horizon Canopy to draw a card, or just fuel a chain of wastelands to, pummel an opponent who happens to be mana screwed because they're only playing 19 lands, like the Delver decks.
Really? They only play 19?
Only 19.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. So this is the main deck. I'm actually really excited to give this a shot. The one thing that I do want to point out is, unlike a lot of the previous Natural Order type decks, there's not a whole bunch of green creatures in this deck. We have like 11, including Dryad Arbor. I think it's enough to be able to play it, as a plan against a lot of decks. But I didn't want to be heavily reliant on it because I feel like I'm going to be siding them out a lot against decks that have, Spell Pierce, Daze, Force of Will, since we're not set up to fight those cards particularly well. But against any decks that don't have those cards, they just can't beat Natural Order for one of these 2 guys. So I think it's worth at least having it in the main deck just to steal some game 1s.
Yeah, and you still have Brainstorm and Clique and Jace to get rid of them if you absolutely need to.
Yep. So that's the main deck. Let's go ahead and take a look at the sideboard and see what kind of options we have in a Legacy deck with basic plains and basic forest. Here we are for the sideboard of the Natural Order Bant deck. And we get some combo hate cards and then some singletons that we can either use as a way to tutor, something that just wins the game against specific decks, and a fourth of a specific card and another equipment. So starting with that, we have the fourth Stoneforge Mystic and Sword of Fire and Ice. And these are two of the cards that we're basically going to be bringing in against decks that have True Name Nemesis, as well as against decks that are able to stop our natural order, or they're good against our natural order plan. We need 5 cards to bring in against just any type of deck, and Stoneforge, another piece of equipment, is something that you could use against any deck. We have 2 Path to Exile, which is very good against all of the Delver decks. Also good against anything with Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf can be very, very big, and Path to Exile takes care of it. Same thing with Maze of Ith. It's just a good card against any of the Tarmogoyf decks. Plus we can find it with Knight of the Reliquary. And Life from the Loam is good against anything that is going to try to wasteland us aggressively, or any deck that we're going to be able to use our wastelands aggressively against, and just grind them out with Life from the Loam.
Yeah, usually only want Life from the Loam in kind of some of the grindier matchups, but it can definitely be game over if you get the engine online.
Absolutely. Now Humility is very good against Sneak and Show.
Yep.
So any deck that, well, not any deck. Sneak and Show is the deck that we want Humility against. But if we put it into play when they cast a Show and Tell, it's almost impossible for us to lose at that point. They're usually drawing to a 1 or 2 of answer as far as Echoing Truth.
And they probably don't even board that in against a deck like this anyway.
Absolutely.
Also, Humility is very good against Elves as well.
Mm-hmm.
It shuts out all their combos, and basically just turns all their creatures into 1/1 do-nothings, which sometimes they can still get you with all those 1/1s.
Just have to hope to draw one of your equipment, I guess.
Yeah, but if you draw any piece of equipment, either a Jet or a Batterskull, you should be able to fairly easily win the game.
Yep. Then we have a Bojuka Bog, which is very good against any of the graveyard-based decks, Dredge, Reanimator. I'd probably even bring it against Storm, as well as something like Tin Fins, if that's even still a deck. I haven't seen it in a while.
No,
but it also isn't that bad against any of the bug decks. Those are the types of decks that we're usually going to be citing out our natural order package, and it's just going to be the 5th card that will come in just to help make it so that we have extra lands in our decks so we don't get mana screwed by their wastelands, as well as it's just a way to shrink Goyfs if we need to. It can also turn off Snapcaster Mage if they're playing Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, also Mongoose as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's very good against Rug Delver.
Yeah.
Gadok Teague is also good against the combo decks. And then we have 3 Swansong and 3 Meddling Mage is the rest of our combo package. So Swansong is, I think, very, very good in a deck like this. A lot of times Swansong can be a liability against the combo decks because you're spending all your resources to stop them from killing you, and at some point they might just be able to kill you with the 2/2. But with this deck, that's not going to happen because we have so many large threats that can just end the game by themselves. Plus we have Jace, so if we need to, we can actually just bounce the bird. And then Meddling Mage is just a proactive card against the combo decks, and I really like it in this deck. So I think that Meddling Mage, while it works in the blue-white-red Delver sideboard, the deck doesn't put on as much pressure as a deck like this can, so it gives them time to find their outs to the Meddling Mage, as well as in those Delver decks, cards like Pyroclasm are just very good against it. And in this type of deck, Pyroclasm's only going to kill a couple creatures.
Yeah, Clasm's not going to kill Knight of the Reliquary or whatever, so
exactly.
It's not nearly as good here.
Exactly. Plus, we have cards like Elspeth. We have combos of our own with Knight and Dark Depths with Thespian Stage. So once we get a Meddling Mage in play to either stop our combo opponent or slow down our combo opponent, we can actually close the game out fairly quickly, whereas the Delver deck usually can't unless they have a string of very good cards.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that cards like Swansong and Meddling Mage are better in a deck with Noble Hierarch because you can do things like turn 1 Noble Hierarch, turn 2 Meddling Mage with Swansong backup or whatever.
Yeah, which is pretty cute.
It makes these cards better when you can play them alongside other threats as well at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah, Swansong in particular, I think, is just going to be awesome out of the sideboard for this deck against the combo decks. Being able to play Knight with Swansong backup, they basically have 2 turns before they're dead to our combo with Thespian Stage, and most of the combo decks don't really have any way to interact with it anyways. Unfortunately, the 2/2 bird can block our Merit Lage, but
unless you natural order for a Crater Hoof to give it trample.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Maybe we'll do that. Probably not today. So that's the sideboard for the no Bant, natural order Bant deck. Pretty excited to see how it plays out.
I hate to interrupt, but you could also put Sword of Fire and Ice on Merit Lage and attack past the Swan.
Oh, that's true. It's blue.
Yeah.
The old Derek Sheets is blue, huh?
Yeah, he's quite the blue. Blue fellow.
Sad part is we won't get our triggers because the game will be over.
Yeah, I mean, it'll go on the stack, but it won't resolve.
Oh well. So let's go ahead and jump into the games and see how this fares against one of the menaces of the Legacy format, Delver of Secrets.